Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Berlinale Talents. The next panel is about confusion in a real sense. The film The Moment has confusion and chaos, I would say, in its core. So we're very happy to have the filmmaker and the director, Aidan Zamiri, with us. The film mixes, who probably most of you haven't seen it, but it's a mockumentary, and Aidan and Charli XX decided creating a film, a mockumentary, not a normal tour documentary, which is playful and strange, and where real life and performance are not you cannot tell them apart. So it takes you on a roller coaster tour, and I'm very, very happy to understand more about the film, more about the filmmaking and the ideas Aidan had behind making this film. So I welcome very much our moderator, Aida, and our filmmaker, Aidan Zamiri, on stage. Thank you very much for coming, and enjoy the talk.
Thank you so much for having us, and thank
Blooming millions of you. Wow, goes all the way up to the back. Luckily these lights are so bright, because I can't.
Yeah, I can't see most of you, but I'm sure you're all absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, no confirmed. I can see this our front row. You guys look amazing.
So hello and welcome to The Moment, Aidan Zamiri on Chaos, Brat, and Creative Discomfort. Three things that I go through daily myself, so I hope I can take some life lessons from the session. We have 90 minutes, and we will dive into this mirror house of a film that you just made, your first one. I think that deserves some applause.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I want to pick your brain on collaboration, creative collaboration, how discomfort and confusion can be a catalyst for creativity and reinvention, and how you did it all. And most importantly, we're going to, do this with you, the man, the myth, the legend. Welcome to Berlin.
I'm the man, the myth, the legend.
Yes.
Cool, thank you, thank you.
I've rarely had so many people reply to me excitedly when I posted that I'm gonna talk to someone.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Random.
You
Thank
really
you.
tapped into the zeitgeist.
Cool.
And maybe we'll find out how and why.
All right.
And something that has never happened is that in 15 years as a journalist, that I ran into someone I interview on a dance floor the night before.
Yeah. You know, we've got a reputation to uphold. 365 party girl, you know?
Running into you on a dance floor really showed me you really made yourself at home in Berlin already. It's good to have you.
Yeah, totally, totally. Wow, so I'm just seeing this. Is this live transcribing what we're saying? That is so impressive.
Oh.
How are they doing that? Are you writing it? No. Sorry, that is incredible. Anyway, back in.
How are you feeling ahead of the screening tonight?
Oh gosh, I hadn't really thought about it. No, I feel great. This has been really fun. I mean, there's something funny that every time we've had a premiere so far, apart from Los Angeles, it snowed on the day of the premiere. There's something spooky in there. Apparently, we've got our London premiere on Tuesday, and it is forecasted to snow as well. There's something kind of poetically, you know, end of summer, end of Brat summer about it all, I think. But no, it's been. I'm really excited to be here. I really love Berlin. Berlin is actually the first. This is the city where me and Charli actually first worked together, where we first shot together. Actually, yeah.
I read about that, and maybe we can talk about that in a little bit. Because first, I'm going to do something really awkward. I'm going to introduce you and all the things you've done in your life while you're sitting next to me.
Cool. No, I'm happy about
So this is going to be a little bit awkward for everyone involved, mostly for you. But I think we need your bio.
Cool. Yeah, go for it.
Where you're coming from.
All right.
You're born in Glasgow and studied graphic design at London Central St. Martin's. And but you also started working with video and photography quickly and abandoned maybe graphic design. One of your first publicly very visible gigs was filming the Beckhams traveling across Europe and the Middle East. And you later moved into making music videos for Caroline Polachek, Shy Girl, FKA Twigs, Young Lean, Billie Eilish, Pink Panthers, and so many artists more that are all on my playlist. But you also do photo shoots and image campaigns, for example, for Timothée Chalamet. Whoa. And you work for fashion brands and on adverts. And after meeting Charli XCX at Caroline Polachek's birthday party, I heard.
Very cool.
You first did a few of my favorite music videos from Brat and the advert.
Thank you.
360 and Guess. I love those videos.
Oh, thank you so much.
And then you did this little thing that's gonna be shown tonight, The Moment.
Yeah.
Mockumentary, thriller, art film, a little bit of everything?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it sort of shifts through a few various genres.
It shifts a few times by watching. And in your work, I see a pervasive sense of nostalgia for maybe the old internet, but also the zeitgeist, very much the current moment, and loads of absurd humor, which I love. We're so excited to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
And who am I taking this place and talking smack to you? I'm Aida Baranejad. I'm a music and film critic, hence this is the perfect film for me to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Based in Berlin most of the time. And yeah, I'm delighted to be invited to do this conversation with you.
I'm so grateful you're doing this. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Let us start with this career that I just outlined.
Yeah.
I also went to art school, but I did not end up traveling with the Beckhams afterwards. How did you fall into this line of work that feels very much like you designed it yourself?
So random. It was so basically, yeah. I one of my first jobs ever, like I guess holding a camera, was following Victoria Beckham around for sort of about 6 months, and it was like a week out of every month. I would kind of follow her around consensually. But basically, the reason that kind of happened was I had graduated from St. Martin's with a graphic design degree. I honestly had not much clue or direction, knowing what I was going to do next. I actually didn't really feel like I had much prospects actually, and I was sort of considering moving back to Glasgow because it's very hard to actually sustain yourself doing a creative job or a creative career.
In London especially.
Especially in London, exactly. But a lot of my best friends were on the fashion course at St. Martin's, which it's really well known for. And the head of fashion, the head of that course, asked me after, maybe a year or two after I graduated, if I would sort of film my friends that they were in their final year and make a sort of mini documentary series about them. And that was really like me with a camera, boom mic under my arm, interviewing people that were sort of my friends, and then editing it together, and all of it was out of focus and a bit messy, but it's actually really, I look back on it with like a lot of love because it felt really, really honest. And it's sort of that, I've not done much documentary work since then, but it was a really fun way to like learn how to make stuff. That was one of the first things really I'd ever filmed. And then someone saw that and asked me if I would kind of do the same thing with Victoria. But yeah, again, it was, I didn't have necessarily a lot of directorial input. It really was a kind of documentative job. But it was super interesting. It was the first time I'd ever gone to America, was with Victoria, and you sort of see this kind of really different version of life. And it was, cool to kind of visit it like a tourist, and then sort of see these things and see the sort of the minutiae or the mechanics of how a lot of these kind of huge people and culture navigate the world.
The mechanics of fame.
I guess so, yeah, exactly.
It's interesting that this reappears in your career so many years down the line.
So strange, it really is. And what was actually very helpful about that experience was, I was young when I did that. I think I was like 22 or 23 or something. And a lot of that experience really helped us understand some of the mechanics of how this movie, how we would actually shoot this movie. And you guys haven't seen it, have you? No, it's not out yet. Sorry.
After tonight, you can?
Yeah, I think so, right? When's it out? I think it's Friday or something. But anyway, hopefully you like it. But yeah, a lot of the way we filmed it was, we had to kind of justify why a camera would be there, and actually that experience filming Victoria was that I kind of was always sort of floating around, and because I was sort of part of her team, it was never really questioned as to why I was there. And so it gave us this kind of facility in the film, or at least I could justify it, that I was like, no, I know this is actually how it works. You can just be there all the time and be floating, and you become part of the furniture, and you sort of become sort of semi-invisible. And so that kind of, it's funny how it made its way into a lot of how we constructed the way this film was made, I guess.
That's kind of a completely new discipline or genre of video content, right? To be the person following someone around and make their image.
Yeah, totally.
But you do so much more. You also do photo shoots, and I read somewhere that you also do other creative work as well, regarding graphic design and packaging, etc. So how would you describe your job yourself?
Oh, that's tough. I've kind of navigated through, I guess, different forms of image making, and I think the reason that I've done it that way is that I guess I'm interested, or at least I value the form or the format of what I'm making being in service of the idea I'm trying to communicate, So sometimes a photo is the best space for something that you're trying to say. I learned a lot, I'd say, about image making through working with Caroline Polachek, because she is such a thoughtful, intelligent, researched artist, and creating an image with her means that you're so thoughtful about every detail of it, what everything means, and that's carried through in all of my work. And I guess I also think about, I made this film, my first feature film, which is so cool, and but I also don't see it as sort of graduating from one to the next or anything. I'll definitely continue to make music videos for the rest of my life and take photos for the rest of my life, because I find all of it really important ways of expressing ideas, and I really do think that it's, that it's finding the right medium to communicate something in, and it being justified, and telling this story that we tell in the moment. We wanted to exist, not only in the format of a feature film, but also in the format of this sort of mockumentary thing. This is how we thought the best way to say something honest was,
It's funny you would say saying something honest while having produced, made a fictionalized mockumentary style film, comedy-ish, thriller-ish, horror film-ish. Where do you get the honesty in the lie of fiction?
Totally, because that is the funny thing. We've made a fictional piece of work, but I think the reason we did it, the initial intention of making this film, was that we thought that we can hit at something that feels extremely true and to the core of what stuff that Charli feels, stuff that I feel, stuff that my co-writer Bertie Brandes also feels. We wanted to get to something that felt really real. And sometimes you do that by presenting it in this format of fiction, and you're, although the events in this story are, we made them up. What we're getting to is a kind of, hopefully a bigger emotional truth, something that, we wanted to get to the core of, that we might not have been able to find in sort of presenting kind of authenticity in a more conventional sense by making a documentary about Charli, where you're sort of almost reverse engineering something authentic, and then inherently it isn't. So we kind of engage with the fact that, like, when making a piece of work, when filming someone, there is just always some kind of performance involved, right? And I'd say that the idea of honesty, it's funny because it's like so much of what I make is, as you were saying, there's a kind of surreal, there's a kind of artifice, or I'm constructing stuff a lot, but it's all hopefully in the service of saying something truthful or getting at something I think is real,
I mean, for my job, I often have to watch one of these hundreds of thousands of musician or artist documentaries that are so en vogue in the past few years. Your former clients, the Beckhams, have some, and so many other artists. Taylor Swift has produced how many by now? 3 or something. So I have to watch these films a lot, and weirdly enough, and this left me almost uncomfortable after the screening that of The Moment. They felt far more artificial, or the other way around. The Moment, your mockumentary felt so much more raw.
Cool, thank you. Wow.
Than these supposedly real documentaries.
Interesting, cool.
What is it about fiction that can tell us something that maybe the performance of the real can't?
I mean, I guess, yeah, it maybe is that thing that, I mean, hey, that's so lovely to hear that. And I guess that really was sort of the intention that, you know, we wanted to get to something, dig into something really vulnerable. And I guess, honestly, maybe it's easier to do that when you are, you know, calling it fiction. You know, it's maybe easier to get to something that feels more embarrassing and more vulnerable. And it's funny because we would use a lot of real world, you know, or maybe Charlie's real insecurities, my real insecurities. And I actually remember when Bertie and I were writing the script, we were, you know, we kind of did it in sort of a vacuum. I remember thinking, I was like, we're doing this as an exercise. No one will ever see this film. No one will say these words out loud. We were doing this kind of as a joke. And then before we knew it, we were at a table read with Charlie and then all the actors and all the producers and the crew of the film. And I remember Bertie and I suddenly feeling like, oh my God, this is mental. Like, you know, even though it's fictionalized, we're talking about, you know, Charlie like yanking her face up with like these strands of hair at the sides of her head to like give herself a facelift, or talking about real insecurities that she's got. And I was like, God, she's so cool because she doesn't care about being that vulnerable and that honest. And yeah, it's true through this kind of fictionalized story, but we were getting at some real stuff, and I was so impressed that she did it so candidly and unembarrassedly, even though, you know, we were using her as this vehicle to talk about kind of how unreliable, you know, that character of Charlie was, and how embarrassing the whole thing is, how embarrassing it is to try, you know. And so maybe it is, you know, in comparison to other things which are sort of presenting themselves as, you know, sort of observational. It's hard to within the constraints of shooting over a period of time to engineer that. You know, it's like some of the best documentaries, obviously, it takes years to be able to capture those things and let those things play out in real time, because just by the fact of having someone look at you, you change who you are. You know, and never mind having a camera. So it's hard to kind of posture that it's all real when there's always a bit of a performance involved, you know?
While you were talking, I was thinking of the figure of the court jester, because he's saying things in jest.
Right, totally.
He's allowed, they are allowed to say the truth.
Right, totally. Yeah, wow, really cool analogy.
Well, you just inspired at what you were saying.
Well, it's a collab.
Yes. Great bridge that you just built for me, because you have these long-standing creative collaborations. And we are going to dive back into the one with Charli in a bit, but maybe more general before we become more special, laser focused on the collaboration with Charli. Why work with people for such a long time? That's not necessarily done if you're a photographer, filmmaker these days. With Caroline Polachek, you're working together for years now. What elevates these meetings to a partnership, relationship?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's never, as with a lot of my career, I've not really planned anything out. I was, you know, I've been very led by, I guess, being sort of reactive in some ways, of being, you know, excited by stuff. What I will say is that often when I'm choosing things to work on, or people I work with, I think it's not like I'm necessarily intentionally being selective, but I work with people that I feel really connected to. Most of the time I'm a fan of them. And I think part of that is not just because I want to work with people I'm a fan of, but like also because I feel that there's a responsibility to really, really understand that thing you're doing. I mean, when I was a teenager, watching music videos and sort of falling in love with an artist and the world that they were making was sort of the kind of my gateway to culture in general, to feel like there was cool stuff out there that made me feel excited about being alive.
I think pop culture made me the person I am.
Exactly. And so I take it really seriously, and I really care about it. And so I feel like when I'm working with someone, I want to understand their whole world, the context of them and their work, and know everything about it. So I have this almost like feeling of responsibility to say, hey, I need to be able to know who they are in order to like contribute to their message or their work or whatever. So I guess in doing that, I'm finding myself working with people that I'm really connected to and I really believe in, and then the positive about kind of continuing a long collaboration with people, whether it's like Caroline or Charlie or the work I've done with Timothy over the past couple of years, it's that you get to first build a language together, and then you get to kind of keep pushing it because you have this shorthand and you have this comfort and this trust. You know, as a photographer, sometimes you are put in a situation where you're shooting something for one day, and you're also meeting that person that you're photographing on the same day. And you know, there's like, as I said earlier, it's like a funny thing to even have a camera pointed at you, and I'm very aware of that as a photographer. So you know, it's cool to build that slowly, to know that this person that you're making something with, for them to feel like you're seeing them properly, you know? So I think that's why it feels, I've enjoyed doing that. I've enjoyed building these languages with different people.
But still making or collaborating with someone on aesthetics and music videos is one thing, but then making a film like The Moment is a step further. How did it come about from the moment that you were just writing with Bertie, a journalist that I followed and admired for many years?
Wow.
From that moment, from just playing around to suddenly making this reel, like, can you take us along the inception of the
sort
film?
of genesis of it? Yeah. Charlie had, after we shot the music video for one of Charlie's tracks, 360, Charlie had sort of said, she was like, oh, maybe we should make something bigger together. We should maybe, you know, she'd sort of had the thought of us making something feature length at some point, but it was very hypothetical and very in the future, maybe in like 5 years or something. We started thinking about ideas completely, you know, unrelated to The Moment. I had a thought about like sort of some girls clubbing in Glasgow or something. And then when around the end of the summer of 2024, the end of Brat summer, Charlie was getting a lot of interest about doing something that sort of felt like, you know, capitalizing on the success of her record, which I guess is something we kind of reflect on in the film, or analyze that thought process in the film. And of course, for us, it didn't feel exciting, or maybe it's what we're speaking about. I didn't feel like we could get to something real or fresh or new or whatever by going that route. And so we were excited by the idea of having this format that existed that we could in some way explore or disrupt, hopefully. And so yeah, Charlie wrote a piece of writing that was kind of worked as our like emotional tonal anchor for a lot of the film, where she sort of read it's almost like a diary entry, but also kind of outlined this idea of documenting this right up to her show. And you know, it was a very, very brief kind of outline of that idea, but then in more depth, she spoke about how she felt as a person, as an artist, to have worked half her life to get somewhere, to do something, to be reaching for that long and then finally get it. But rather than feeling like she'd arrived somewhere, she had this sort of thing in her hands that all she could do is like watch it slip through her fingers, you know, and how sort of strange and disorienting that felt to kind of go through that shift, and how sort of listless and strange that felt. And obviously she talked about how there's an instinct when something like that happens to hold on to it, because you're like, this is what I've been waiting for, I think. And then in holding on to something that tight, that's often when it breaks, you know. And so that kind of feeling is this thing that we sort of really went off of. And then the process of writing, Bertie and I, you were saying Bertie Brandes is an amazing writer. Neither of us had ever written a screenplay. Actually, the only script I'd ever written was actually the opening sequence of 360. It's a 2-page script, but I'm very proud of that one. And Bertie and I started forming this story, and what was kind of helpful about that is that I knew Charli on a personal level, but Bertie had never met her. And Bertie and Charli, kind of out of us sort of engineering that, like, they didn't meet or speak until we started filming. Because there was something very helpful about the fact that we had this two-pronged approach where I had a kind of understanding of how Charli was feeling on a human level, but then we were also able to step back and understand kind of, you know, Brat being this kind of, I mean, it's honestly quite surreal, colossal moments in culture. You know, like NATO did a Brat post. It's sort of so strange and surreal.
It was a weird time in our lives.
Yeah, really weird to watch this thing that, you know, I knew was like, had come from a very personal place. Charli made this record, and it felt, the reason she made it, she was like, I don't know if anyone will like this, but I like it, and this feels like me. And then to see something that kind of went from being very personal to then being so global that it could inevitably mutated, and changing into something else. And obviously this thing where this thing that had come from Charli was suddenly happening to her and happening to everyone else, and she had to kind of accept that, you know, that she no longer had grasp of this thing. That being able to like look at that from a kind of more a wider perspective, from a cultural level, what that sort of says about how we as a culture interact with art, or rather what the goalposts are in terms of how we exist as people, which is often towards you know, profit or capital, and that being the kind of often the target for our world, and so that it influences how we act as people, what we do, the choices we make. So it was cool to have these kind of two parts, something that felt very personal and something that felt more, I guess, analytical in terms of culture, and have those things go in tandem. But yeah, throughout the process, we would, you know, as we were building our storyline beats, we would sort of check in with Charli, because the other thing that we felt was important was that every decision that this kind of fictional Charli makes had to feel plausible in some ways to the real world Charli. You know, that it's like, obviously she does different things in the movie than she does in real life, but it's actually not too different. You know, Charli said herself, it was like, it's actually not too different from the things, the instincts that she's had as a person, you know? And if Charli had a sort of separate set of circumstances, separate set of influences around her, maybe she would have gone down that path, because it's like, you know, it's like that's we know Charli is someone with like this incredible taste or whatever, but she herself knows that in her past, like even with her record before Crash, you know, that was her.
I loved Crash.
I love Crash. Come on, yeah.
A lot of people loved Crash.
Yeah, I love Crash, and Charli's spoken about how that was her sort of exploration in her own way, and her kind of with a wink and a nudge, her way of exploring the kind of like pop music machine, or the kind of record label system, because she sort of at that point also felt like that was, you know, an interesting path to take. So yeah, we really did want to understand that every decision that this fictional Charli makes felt reasonable in this sort of alternate reality.
It's funny you would use words like reasonable, plausible, because if this fictionalized Charli XCX is not one thing, is consistently sympathetic. I feel like the fictionalized Charli XCX is not always the most sensible.
Yeah, it's super unreliable.
Yeah, very unreliable, not necessarily loyal, just a nice person, but also increasingly a terrible person. How do you convince your main protagonist and producer of the film and idea giver to get down and dirty in a way socially ugly, you know, in your film?
So funny. It was never even a question for her. There was no Charli. I think Charli. Part of the reason I'm a fan of her is that she's so honest about kind of everything, and I mean that in that she's honest about her strengths, but also her failings, what she perceives as her failings, you know, and so she had no want really to posture herself or present herself as this kind of valiant, you know, true to herself figure in any way. She understood that there's something refreshing, something interesting about, again, talking about kind of subverting the sort of story we often feel like we see in these kind of in sort of like when musicians or artists are presented, that it's like allowing them to be unreliable or allowing them to be messy. And I sympathize with the character of Charli a lot throughout the film, but I also like see her, you know, fucking things up for herself, you know, and making these decisions. And I understand her instincts, and I go, God, why are you doing that? But it feels human, it feels real. And actually, Alexander Skarsgård, who was one of the first actors that came on board for the project, something that Charli and I had a call with him early on to talk about, you know, see if he was into the idea of doing this project. And he'd read the script, he loved it, and he said that the reason he was so excited about this is because it did exactly that Charli's in no way painted as the hero in this. And that felt, you know, it feels human. You know, all the characters in this film are somewhat unlikable, but also somewhat likable.
There is no heroine in the film.
Yeah, exactly.
No
exactly.
hero, no
Everyone's difficult, but also I think there's something human and special and lovable about that in some way.
I wanted to talk about capitalism next, but maybe we'll table that for a minute because you brought a few clips from the film, and you just mentioned sure. Alexander Skarsgård. So maybe you should see some of the clips to illustrate what we just talked about.
Cool.
And I'm wondering why what these specific ones symbolize for you. Which one would you show first?
Maybe since we'd sort of spoken about Alex and his character Johannes, we could do the one with there's a clip between him and character Celeste, kind of at the control desk, sort of battling it out for control. I wonder if that'll be confusing for these guys because they're seeing the clips out of order. You guys don't mind, right? Non-linear storytelling and all that. All right, cool. Maybe that's a good one to go with. Do you want to set it up a little?
Wall.
Yeah, I mean, we're about to see a little scene where Celeste, played by Haley Benton Gates, is her character is sort of Charli's creative director, the person that's running Charli's live show, her tour, and a character called Johannes, played by Alexander Skarsgård, has come into the fold, hired by Charli's record label Atlantic to make a kind of concert film, and is sort of slowly, bit by bit, encroaching on this creative and overstepping quite a lot. During this kind of during this time, Charli has kind of ejected herself from the situation. She's gotten out of there and sort of left Celeste to deal with this. And we kind of see an interaction between, or at least we sort of see two people really not getting each other, I think, is the core of this sort of sequence.
Film ab, bitte.
Nice, guys.
When I watched the film, I laughed out loud at the mention of the wristbands, but it also enraged me so much, this conversation with a man that's already kind of trying to take over. And it reminded me of so many conversations I've had in my life.
That's happened.
I think, well, every woman trying to do a thing. Why is this scene so pivotal and important? Why have you brought this with you?
I really love this scene for exactly that it felt very, very real and very familiar, and it's sort of anxiety-inducing for a lot of people. But it's, you know, this is kind of a helpful scene to sort of see the almost like laid most plainly the kind of two routes that Charli kind of can choose from in the kind of fork in the road of what she can do as an artist or what anyone can do, and you sort of speaks of the kind of difference between, you know, a nightclub, which is sort of a temporary thing, as is like everything in life, you know, it happens and then it's over, and accepting that, you know, it's clubbing, and that is kind of the sort of the magic of it. Whereas sort of Johannes's view of something lasting and enduring, and sort of the idea of a very male idea of like legacy, is you can sort of see their two values, their two ideas of what's important, really at odds with each other. And it's fun to, you know, I often think about the fact that with this film we've ultimately made like a workplace drama.
I immediately had to think of The Office.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sort of it's people at their jobs disagreeing, and it was particularly fun to kind of get into, you know, the minutiae of this, and also dramatize it and make it feel as stressful and painful as it can often feel. Hopefully, a lot of people can kind of relate to conversations like that and interactions like that. But I kind of like that we dialed up. This is sort of a nod to the tone of where the film heads to. As you're saying, it kind of becomes like a psychological thriller. but it's sort of, you know, we had these kind of strobing lights there, and we had A.G. Cook, our incredible composer of the film. What? I knew that.
A.G. Cook fans in the house.
Clap. He's amazing. And A.G. and I throughout would talk about, you know, how we wanted to build the soundscape of this film. And so, you know, even there, it's like sort of almost non-musical, but you've got these kind of sounds that come in that feel like they could be mechanical, but they build alongside the lights, and they feel intrusive, and they feel like they're sort of dialing up the tension within there. And they're both Celeste and Johannes are kind of saying what they mean, but not saying what they mean. And you kind of really feel that friction. Haley Benton Gates, I think, did such an incredible job of playing Celeste. And I remember actually speaking on set that the two of them sort of performed so differently. And it was I remember almost feeling maybe jarring for them, because they had almost such different approaches to how they were performing, and it was perfect. You know, it was like Haley was so almost like conversational, and Alex kind of went so broad with Johannes, and it kind of made for this perfect friction between them, where they were so clearly in every part of their essence on a different page. And Haley particularly, we worked with an amazing casting director called Jen Vendetti, who he's Oscar nominated now. Well done, Jen. And for good reason, because Jen's ethos as a casting director, I think, is really helpful, and it's really cool to learn from her, because what she will, a lot of the time, the way she'll consider people for roles is that sort of knowing who that person is, or what that person does in real life, and how their instincts and their belief system or whatever might match up with a character. I'm not saying that that's the situation for Alexander Skarsgård at all, but for Haley, she's a director. She actually premiered and won Sundance the year before us, and the first meeting she had after winning her category at Sundance was that she took a meeting with me and Charli, and so her instincts and her point of view in life is often about art and integrity, and so that really matched up with Celeste. So it felt like they were able to really inhabit, you know, these characters, and it also meant that when we were shooting, you know, we'd written the script and it was all down on the page, but we also made sure that it was we built in this time for things to be really loose, because again, we wanted this to feel as real and documentative or whatever as humanly possible. So yeah, I think this seems like it's a fun one. It was a fun one to write. It was a fun one to shoot.
You brought two more scenes that, and they all have this very specific look, aesthetic-wise. I think a lot of your music videos to me appear so crisp in their look, but this is very grainy, very found footage, messy. Tumblr found footage coded.
Totally. Thank you. Best compliment I could ever receive. It's true.
That's when I know I'm talking to another millennial.
Yes.
Yeah, why this specific look?
So our cinematographer, Sean Price Williams, is I think he's one of the greatest cinematographers ever, and he's also an incredible director in his own right. And you know, we sort of really had to figure out the language and the tone of this film. Sean's a real, like, similar to Charli, a real movie buff. He had a lot of references inbuilt into his brain about, you know, rock docs that he remembers that he's in love with or whatever, and that he brought in there. But you know, really the main thing was that the camera had to feel as kind of alive as possible. The camera is a character in the film, you know, not explicitly, but it's the way that we feel throughout the course of the film. It's the camera is a part of that, you know. It feels anxious sometimes, it feels voyeuristic other times, and it's sort of, it has its own relationship and dynamic with the characters within the film. You know, people like Charli are used to it being there because it's happening all the time, like me and Victoria, and or other characters might like say something and regret it, or say something because they don't think they're being seen. So that kind of informs a lot of like, you know, how we observe it. And again, it kind of relates back to what we were talking about, the idea of performance and persona being kind of always sort of present, I think, in a lot of the stuff that I'm interested in. But no, yeah, finding the kind of personality and the look, we, you know, obviously we'd sort of spoken a lot in the run-up, but really you have to discover that on set a lot of the time. And the first scene that we shot, unfortunately I've not got it with me, but it's a scene with Rachel Sennett in a kind of club bathroom. I love that scene.
It's hilarious. It's in the trailer, and you all have to tell me how loud you laughed when you saw it afterwards.
Yeah, each one of you, one by one, will go through it. And in that scene, it was like it was the first scene we shot of our entire shooting schedule. It was also one of the first scenes that Bertie and I wrote because it sort of felt like the right tone. It's a very passive-aggressive scene, and in that tiny bathroom, there's a kind of large mirror, and we also have 2 cameras running at once. We have Sean, and then our B unit, our second camera, Emilio. And it's so clumsy because it's like, you know, they're catching each other in the reflection and things are just kind of zooming in and out. And we really found the personality of the film when we were shooting that scene, that it felt, I mean, hey, thematically it felt chaotic and it felt confusing, but it was so what it needed to feel, because again, the sort of challenge of this is like, having written something which is fictional, what it needed to be, the success of it hinged on it feeling spontaneous. And then in doing that, it meant that our camera had to feel like it was always discovering something for the first time. So Sean really had to think like an actor all the time. You know, how would this camera react to seeing something? What would this camera get distracted by? And sometimes I was like cursing his name in the edit because we would have like an amazing take, and then Sean would suddenly like tilt up to the ceiling because he thought something looked funny. But then other times we would find like absolute magic because we allowed for that to happen as much as possible. So yeah, a lot of the aesthetic, I think, of the film lies in its messiness and its spontaneity and its kind of the feeling of getting distracted.
We've got 2 more clips.
Oh yeah.
And both of them feel dizzying in their own way.
Oh yeah.
Which one should we watch first?
I wonder if we should set up our Brat card. And we can kind of see the one where Charlie's in a van on the way to a brand activation. I say that with so much disdain, and that's like I think a fun one to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Brat card, please. This scene really gets at the core of something that left me really uncomfortable when I watched the film, and this discomfort hasn't left me.
Cool.
Well, wait until I have my question.
Yes, amazing. It's weird. Whenever someone says that the film was really triggering, I thank them. It's a really strange statistic. Anyway.
Well, it was triggering and very hilarious at the same time.
Great.
But yeah, the inescapability of capitalism. It's a film with scenes like this, and further down the line, even more overtly, critiquing a certain form of late-stage capitalism,
exactly.
Total appropriation of culture, and hollowing it out, while simultaneously being a part of the machine. I guess Atlantic probably greenlit this project.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, right? It was scary.
And Amazon is mentioned by name.
Didn't greenlight it either. It was actually a nightmare for A24's legal team.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really scary.
Okay. But it's still part of the machine.
No, it definitely is. Like, I mean, it's, you know, implicitly, even with, you know, Charli as an artist as well, she is involved. She like interacts with.
You just shot the Super Bowl campaign for
exactly.
Lemonade.
It was Poppy. It's a prebiotic soda. Anyway.
We don't have it here in Europe, so we can just mention the name.
Right, sorry.
But yeah.
Lemonade, sorry.
It's still part of the machine, even if
totally,
Atlantic and Amazon didn't greenlight it. And yeah, how do you reconcile these contradictions or this appropriation, this inescapability of critiquing something, and the critique is absorbed by the system, and it's a loop we can't get out. I mean, Adorno wrote about it very many years ago. All these German thinkers annoying us forever, but being right. But yeah, how do you reconcile this?
No, I know. This is well, you've identified it exactly right. That it's something that felt very interesting for us to write about. I mean, I bring it back to the kind of the Brat NATO post or whatever, or even the scale of seeing this thing, and like, Brat being a vehicle or an example of something where this happened to, but it happens obviously throughout culture all the time, where people see something that is popular or is perceived as cool and want to engage with that audience or profit off of that audience or that culture, but don't want to engage with maybe the core or anything inside of it that scares them or feels not aligned.
Like this day-to-day manager clumsily talking about queer fans of Charli's.
Yeah, totally. And so it's when that happens, I think, when someone engages with the shell of something without trying to take the core with it, you obviously warp it and distort it, and you get something which is hollow, and it sterilizes the thing that was once cool, and it happens constantly, and it feels like pervasive in so many parts of our world, and it's whether it is borrowing from different cultures or it's borrowing from specific communities or subcultures or whatever. There's a kind of a constant, we're constantly under attack of being monetized, basically, and whether that's you as a member of an audience or you as someone that makes something. And so it felt important because to sort of ruminate on that in this film, because, it's in making stuff and being part of culture, you're also having to then also engage with a capitalist world. And you're right that it's like Charli as an artist has done this loads. That's why it kind of felt apt. It's like we've used this kind of Brat credit card, which feels honestly really plausible in the grand scheme of things. It's Brat became a presidential campaign, and it's interesting to see these things that happen in the real world feel just as kind of plausible in this film world. And again, it's this thing of like, do these things which want to profit off of this popularity, do they want to engage with all parts of it? Does this bank want to engage with queer audiences? As a filmmaker that's made commercials or whatever, I know that it's like I've often been put in positions where I'm making something for a brand or whatever that, again, want to profit off of a queer audience, but don't necessarily want to engage with, like the mesh top and the assless chaps of it all. Or there's more than that or whatever. But like, like not wanting to engage with the stuff that they find frightening, but still want to harvest what they can, And then, of course, as you were saying, like, what we offer in this film really isn't like a solution or a clean response, because it's really hard to do that now in a world where in order to be alive and take part in culture, to absorb art, to do anything, you have to kind of figure out how you exist within the system. And I won't spoil the ending for you or anything, but it's like our version of that, I guess, is really, knowing that when you've kind of been part of that system and ingested a lot of that venom, there's only certain things you can kind of do to sort of maybe give yourself small victories or whatever. And I don't want that to feel sort of pessimistic in any way, but what we try to do is find something where it's about knowing that you can separate yourself out from this version of you, or this idea that you are a monetizable, a sort of an object of that renders profit, I guess. And Charli, it's when she sees herself as something that is, she sees this idea of herself that lives outside of her, or this thing that she's made get warped and twisted, and no longer really be able to recognize herself in it anymore. The hardest thing is to kind of allow yourself to sever it away and get a bit of freedom or whatever, or be a human again. That's kind of, I guess, where we tried to arrive. I hope that didn't sort of spoil some of our ending or whatever. I don't think it did. It was vague enough.
Don't think so. But the last scene you brought is one that really encapsulates this monetization aspect of the Brat moment, the moment very well. Can you tell us a little bit about the scene?
Yes, so this final scene when everyone's kind of walking into so we kind of see Charli kind of in a sort of flow state, performing rather rehearsing for her show. As I said, like she's got this sort of creative director that feels like her partner in sort of art and integrity. They're making something that they believe in together, and we sort of feel that in real time get disrupted. We sort of see the start of like something, you know, in a sinister way becoming sterilized in that way. We see the signs of something, this flow being broken as these kind of outside entities come in and start, I guess, circling something that they think they can sort of draw blood from. So yeah, this is Charli rehearsing in a big, large warehouse, and Johannes and the label come to join.
Film up. I feel like I've met versions of this major label dude.
Yeah.
Like, very often.
Yeah, totally.
The whole film feels like, and I hope I'm not spoiling anything with that, kind of killing off the Brat era in a way. Was that intended?
Totally. I think you guys know that's kind of roughly what we're doing, right? But it's sort of, kind of burning it down. I mean, hey, I'd say that's kind of where it leads to.
I mean, it feels appropriate, and and that's definitely not spoiling because it's the first scene, I think, where they talk about things being cringe, have become cringe. So I found it a good way to kill off the overkill and the cringeness of it all. But let's talk about you. You're now...
Segue from cringe to me. No, joking.
No. We've talked about this film. That's your first feature film. It's your debut.
Yep.
And I think it's not very often that someone's debut feature film is internationally released with A24.
Yeah.
Is there even advice you can give to, filmmakers and creatives starting out now, like the wonderful talents that are in the room?
Yeah, you guys. I mean, I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, hey, this has been bonkers. It is. I feel really, really fortunate. I feel really lucky that we've been able to make this film, in the first place. That we were able to, it's a miracle that any film gets made, I think. And then on top of it, have people see it, and have it in all these places that people can access it and hopefully, enjoy it. Or not enjoy it, that's also kind of cool.
Or get out and be very uncomfortable like I was.
Exactly. And so that is really, it's really not lost because it's in the same way that we were speaking about with making art or whatever. Film in particular, it's impossible to make something without the resources to do it, and really, but filmmakers are hopefully, ideally, wanting to say something truthful and express something, and that's the same thing that sort of Charli and Brat have to deal with in this film. I said Brat as if Brat is a character, but I think it kind of is, and definitely is. Having to deal with this thing of the intention being expressing something and saying something real, whilst everyone else kind of having this goal and this purpose of making money in some way, So it's filmmaking, I think, is very hard, and I've got a lot of friends that have made incredible films. It's taken a long time to get films made, and then also have to work so hard to get distribution, have it be places, and then for anyone to see it. So I'm really grateful for that. In terms of sort of advice, God, it's hard, isn't it? Because it's like everything's so random, and something that I've found in my life is that I've really tried not to have too much of a master plan, because our world, the world we live in, changes so much, and the way of making things changes so much, and so what I've tried to do in my life is be sort of reactive, I guess, and feel distracted, you know. I've said this before, but when I was like younger, when I was in like high school, I I haven't actually said this before. I played the flute. And
Who didn't?
you played the flute as well?
Well,
No
recorder, I think.
Oh no, I was doing like.
Oh, a proper flute.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny when you're a teenager, you're like, you do one thing and you're like, I guess this is my thing. So I was like, God, am I going to be a flute player for the rest of my life?
That's pretty cool.
Cool. Sorry, it just wasn't for me. And very cool. And I remember feeling like I wasn't practicing my flute and I was getting distracted by Tumblr all the time. And
We were all distracted by Tumblr.
yeah, exactly. And I remember making a decision that I was like, hey, I should stop fighting this. And I should just allow the thing that I'm getting distracted by to be my main focus. Like if something else is pulling my focus, why don't I just make that the thing that I'm doing? And it served me really well, because it's kind of what I sort of tried to do within reason for most of my life, where I said if something is making me feel compelled, like why not go to it? And that's kind of how I've ended up working on all of these, on these very varied projects and these very varied outlets of my practice, I guess. So yeah, I mean, hey, I'd say, I don't know if I'm scared about giving that a piece of advice because maybe that's dangerous, but like I'd say just go towards the thing that is sort of you're feeling compelled to do, and also maybe figure out why you feel compelled to do that thing. And I've also thought that like throughout the course of like my career, I guess, when you're younger, a lot of people, you get this kind of advice a lot where it's like, you know, just be yourself and do your thing or whatever. And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people. You're like, how the hell are you supposed to know what that is, you know? And how am I supposed to know who I am? That's crazy. And what I found is just by making stuff constantly, you slowly, bit by bit, find little things that you feel like they're a part of you, or you see a bit of yourself in this thing that you've made, and it'll feel really sparse at the beginning, but then the more that I made, the more I'd sort of see these things and be like, cool, go towards that thing.
So make sense of the chaos within you.
Exactly, make sense of it, exactly, and then you'll slowly build this kind of little map that sort of, it's easier and easier to like run towards each time. So I guess it's like in the spirit of actually like it all being cringe, it's like feeling unfiltered and making stuff and trying not to be too embarrassed about it is the kind of for me, I found the best way to do it. Yeah, I just made stuff and loads of shite. Like I made loads of terrible stuff, and you just kind of edit it away slowly, and then before you know it, you've got this body of work, and it takes a long time to do, but you've got this body of work that you feel is you. Mm.
So what's coming next for you?
Oh,
another feature film?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've really enjoyed working in this medium, and I would love to go again. Bertie and I definitely want to start writing again. I think Charli also is really keen to make more stuff together. So yeah, I'm gonna try and do like a music video or something soon, I think. And I took some pictures over January and stuff like that. I'm not allowed to tell you. But no, I'm gonna you know, I'd love to keep those plates spinning, but definitely I think I'm excited to make another film as soon as possible. Maybe do something completely different.
I'm excited to see them, and I have so many more questions. But we also have an audience that certainly has some questions. So I would suggest we take a few minutes for questions from the audience.
Cool.
There are people with microphones. There is quite a few questions. So maybe, yeah, over there. You guys see them better than I do.
You've got the moment graphic on there. That's cool. Look at that.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
You're on the moment generator. Okay, very cool. My eyesight's terrible. Sorry. Yeah.
Hello there. My name is Ava. I'm a film student, and my question is...
Sorry, I can't see you.
I'm here. So my question is for the editing process, because you mentioned a bit that it was kind of a little bit difficult for you to work with the cameraman sometimes.
It was amazing.
I'm sure. But in general, just like, was there ever in the editing process the question of, is this film really going in that direction, or do you want to go in another direction? And how did you feel at like the end of it? Did you really feel like it was the end of it?
Wow, God, good question. And I tell you, it's a scary thing to edit a film. Hey, yeah, the process is really, it's, you know, I'd been through the process. The mechanics of making a feature film are in some ways similar to making something short form, and the obvious difference is the scale of it, you know, where a friend of mine called me up actually when I was sort of a week or two into the edit, and he's a friend of mine called Jack Beggart, who's made a lot of amazing music videos, but also made his debut feature a couple of years ago, and yeah, he sort of said that it really made a good point that like with a music video you can kind of take it from being dog shit to kind of amazing in like a day and a half maybe in the edit, and with a film you can work for 2 or 3 weeks and try to make it 5% better, but it just sort of feels like this mountain you're scaling the whole way through. But yeah, the way we shot this was definitely, you know, as I said, we had 2 cameras going all the time. We had so much stuff. And then on top of it, we've also used a lot of, we've stolen clips from the internet and stuff. Sorry, not stolen. I think we did get permission. Just again, A24's legal team really worked very, very hard. Katie Crown, I believe her name was. Thank you, Katie. But we had so much to pull from, because not only did we have our movie to pull from, we had like the real world in some ways. So trying to build that story, it could have gone in so many different ways and different directions. And yeah, I guess, hey, on a kind of like how it sort of felt doing it is that you go from a setting which is extremely social, which is filmmaking, like as in shooting. You're with this group of people and collaborators that you love, and it feels like it's very generative, and you're making stuff all the time, and you're kind of all sharing this responsibility of making this thing, and then you get like locked in a dungeon on your own with one person, and it feels like the entire responsibility of like the past month, not just month, but this entire production is on you. So it's terrifying, it really is. But it's funny, it's just like you know, you just go through it bit by bit, and it's like you watch the first assembly and you're like sweating, like I was sweating so much, and then bit by bit you kind of attack different things, and then similar to what I was talking about building a kind of body of work that feels like you in the end, it's like you kind of find a little thing. Actually, funny enough, the first scene that I think we nailed was this scene with Charli and Kylie Jenner. Random for me to say that, right? Who would have thought that would just happen in my life, you know? But that was the first scene that we actually was like, wait, that's the tone, that's the energy of this film, and then you kind of spread out from there. And it definitely there's a lot of choices that you figure out, or the rules that you give yourself along the way. As I said, like AG and I would speak loads about the rules and the philosophies we gave ourselves with all the sound. For example, so I'm going on a few tangents now, but for example, like AG was very conscious of the fact that he never used a Charli vocal in any of the soundtrack, because it's sort of, the film is not about the making of the music, it's actually kind of a sort of Charli being separated from her art over the course of the film. And then similarly, we worked with a graphic design studio called Special Offer, who are incredible, and they actually worked on the Brat album cover. They've worked with Charli for a while. I've worked with them on loads of different projects. And we also gave ourselves these rules about how, there's a lot of kind of aggressive titling across the film. And for us, like these sort of visual flares weren't just visual, weren't just surface level, but really informed so much of the storytelling that we were trying to get across. Yeah, I've got more I could say, but we should probably get another question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
There's a question over there, and yeah.
Oh, you guys got bored, right?
Hello.
Bye. No, don't worry.
Hi, my name is Dika.
Hey, Dika. Where are you, Dika? Sorry.
Let me just stand up.
Oh, yay. Amazing.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah. I have like a very curious question to ask you, which is about working with musicians and making music videos. Often, I mean, I'm going to tailor my experience to my country. I'm from Nigeria, cool. And often when you speak to directors who, like in the music world or like shooting, like directing music videos, they often speak about it as though it's unfulfilling work. It's like, for them it's that it's usually the artist's vision mostly, and then, it's done to music videos are usually done to promote the song. And it I mean, from the conversations with you, Moment doesn't sound like that. And, you know, I can, you know, see that your artistic voice is in it. And so I'm wondering what the balance is or what you even think of it as, you know. For them, it's like they're often looking for, it's almost as though it's a way to then go into like narrative filmmaking or documentaries later. So I'm just like wondering what you think about that.
Right, yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, great question. Really interesting. Yeah, because I really love making music videos, and I feel really fulfilled by them. Yeah, it's a really specific way of making something, because there is an element where you are making a video for someone else's words. You know, it's like a song that they've written. It's personal to them, and so I guess the way of approaching it as a music video director is that, you know, it's you don't want to take that away from someone and fit it into your thing, you know, and twist it and try and make someone else fit into your worldview or something like that. You by taking part in making a music video, you're making something with someone, and obviously that still involves like interpreting it in your own way. You know, I like hear a song and I'll see how but I'll really try and understand it. And we were speaking earlier about how, when I decide to work with someone, I want to go at it with a full understanding who that person is or what it is in context with the world. Again, it's how I make any work. I try to not make anything just because I can, but because I hopefully in some ways it's not just contributing to noise, but it's doing something helpful or doing something interesting or doing something truthful or whatever. So yeah, I guess it's like, maybe it's like if that feels. Perhaps there are directors in the world, and they're often amazing, but it's like, you know, that have a very specific story to tell that's within them, and that's how they want to work, you know. Whereas I guess I'm just as interested not only in like telling stories that are kind of inside of me, but also finding things in the real world or finding things from other people and making something together, you know. And I guess it's like, if that's something you want to do, then that kind of thing will prosper. So like a really I managed to see Jonathan Glazer talk recently, and he's obviously an incredible music video director and also narrative feature film director, and I believe he also said something that really resonated with me, that he never saw going from music videos to feature films as though it was some sort of graduation, and I really, as we said earlier, I really feel that way, that it's, to me, all of it feels an exciting way to express something, and as I said, I hope I'm always going back to music videos in my life. So I guess it's the intention. It's how you approach that kind of collaboration, if you feel like that's something you want to do in life, I guess.
I mean, I love music videos, and often I hear the music video is dead, but I love to see it alive and kicking.
Yeah.
And what I really enjoy about your work is there's always this aspect of irony in them. They don't take themselves too seriously.
Cool. Yeah.
And maybe that's something that helps with
totally
not feeling like...
You are right as well, because it's like there's a lot less resources now for music videos generally, obviously. It's like, if you do... I mean, I've never made money off a music video ever in my life, ever. I've lost money on music videos almost every single time I've done it.
That's what I hear very often from films.
And so you really want to do it because you love it, you know? Because it's just no longer, I guess, for record labels, it's no longer like a necessary tool all the time. But I think they're important, you know? And I really love them, and they kind of changed my life. So I try to do it still.
I can relate.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. Maybe over here. Someone is very eager.
Hello, my name is Hamudi Darian.
Hey.
Hey. I have two questions. So the first question is a personal question. So,
I'm
We want to stay focused on filmmaking.
No, go for it. I'm intrigued.
which celebrity you all worked did you enjoy the most?
Oof. Tough.
But be like truthful.
That is me.
I have to it's gonna sound like a politician's answer, but literally I love them all. Who do I like the most? Who do I like the most? No, in a genuine way, it's like I've learned so many things about like my practice and who I am as a person through working in with these different people that I have like long-standing collaborations with. I feel like, you know, Charli and I have obviously like got to do this fucking massive thing together. So I feel like we've really, you know, I feel like we're really like in it together. But it's like, you know, I mean, like shooting Caroline Polachek's album cover was like one of the coolest things ever. And then, you know, it's like, in a real way, I actually have like learned so much from all of these people, and they're like my, you know, I'm a fan and I love them all. So sorry,
Okay,
shit answer, but I can't.
Just one person.
You are
Just
mental.
one name.
No. what was your other thing?
Okay.
You said you had 2 questions.
Yes, my second question is, I don't want to sound greedy or something.
Oh my gosh.
But
You
me
do
and
already,
my,
but go on.
Thank you so much. Me and my friend want to go to the moment today, but we don't have tickets. Do you have 2 tickets maybe? Please. Please.
I have nothing on me. I just have these gloves. You know what? I really like. I'll chat to one of these guys from Universal. I don't know if any of them are here.
I think no one from
I don't know how to do that. We'll figure it out. I'll
Okay,
try
can
my
you
best.
please
I don't
help
know.
us to get
Everybody
tickets?
gets a ticket.
I think
Sure.
I respect your audacity.
Yes.
Shout out to your audacity. I
Totally,
respect
yeah.
it so much, but I think it's time to give the microphone to someone else.
Ah.
And there is questions in the back
Okay,
over there.
goodbye.
Well done. Thank you.
Well done,
That was
though. I really
sort of
respect it.
Brat,
Shout out to
in
you.
essence,
Yes.
wasn't it? Yeah.
If something was bratty, this was it.
Well done. If you
Maybe
don't
in the
ask, you
back
don't
over
get.
there.
Sorry. Funny.
Thank you so much. Well, my name is Pavel. I'm from Mexico, and congratulations for your debut film.
Thank you so much.
And as a young filmmaker, is anything that worry about the world that we live in? And do you think that cinema maybe has the power to change the world that we live in and help us to develop a better world, maybe?
God, I hope so. I mean, hey, what I'd say about filmmaking or making art in general is it's a very human thing to do, to just try and process the world around you and hopefully try and figure out what it feels like to be a person. And there's kind of very, very often no like clean answer for any of that. So, you know, if anything, it's a way to understand what it's like to be alive. It's a way to understand the world we live in. So yeah, in that way, I really think it does have that power. And what was the other part of your question? What am I worried about? Or am I worried about the future of like kind of filmmaking? Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's like it can be tough to exist in a culture which is geared towards profit, maybe more than anything else. And that kind of affects everybody.
I think that's a theme in your film.
Yeah, I think so, exactly. And hey, say for example, it's like, I don't know if the moment will, well, let's see what the moment does, I guess, but that's been my way of processing stuff that feels present in my life, or something that takes a lot to kind of reflect on, you want to unpack. So yeah, in that way, I think it does.
I think we have time for one more question.
Better be bloody good.
You can pick one of the arms that are.
What, me? I'm scared. I can't do that. You have to pick them. You have to do
Yes,
it.
you go ahead,
You
please.
have to do it.
Hi.
Hey.
I had the great pleasure and privilege to watch The Moment yesterday at a press screening. It
Awesome.
was great. It was so good.
Cool, thank you.
I thought writing-wise, you found the perfect balance between like humor but also vulnerability.
Cool, thank you.
And it sort of resulted in this very profound profile of an artist. Like you said, that there were real vulnerabilities from Charli at play. And I thought you could really see that within the movie.
Thank you.
My question was, and I hope this isn't too repetitive because you've already touched on writing this movie, but I was wondering what the challenges were of writing a mockumentary, and if there was like a pressure to capture the voice of a real person within a mockumentary.
First of all, thank you so much. I'm so glad you enjoyed the film. Yeah, I mean, hey, one thing I'm excited about, especially with now this is being its European premiere tonight, is that I think this is very European film in its DNA, and a lot of our.
Why would you say that?
It's so British, I think, in its
Yes,
sense of humor.
okay. The humor definitely is.
Yeah, and and I think a lot of my influences are, it's European and British comedy, but sorry, yeah, to sort of find that voice. I mean, hey, one thing that's, I guess, somewhat of a challenge is that there's sort of some examples in the world of like this kind of genre, this mockumentary genre, and what we've made is, I guess, confusing. You know what I mean? When the films first started getting promoted, there was still so much confusion around whether this was real or not. I think hopefully still.
I read a piece of the other day that said it's a documentary.
Amazing. I mean, I find it so funny and interesting, but it's like that, I mean, maybe that's, I didn't find this challenging necessarily, but it's interesting to see how it being kind of a sort of funny combination of genres and ideas going on. It's like that can be tough for people to navigate. You know what I mean? Often people want to be told what it is they're getting. And I kind of like that it's sort of, as confusing as misleading, and even the release of the film coming now, it being kind of falling in line with attention and oversaturation and fatigue, with Brat kind of overstaying its welcome. It feels like we get to kind of experience a lot of the feelings of the film in real time. But in writing in Charli's voice and writing in a lot of the voices of the characters was actually really kind of easy and really fun. The way Bertie and I would write a lot of the time is we'd sort of sit in a cafe. I've actually thanked them in the special thanks at the end. I thank Cafe Kick, which is an Exmouth Market in London, and the Barbican Kitchen, which is also in London. We would sit in one of these cafes and we would kind of talk out loud all the time. I would do a kind of Charli voice or like Johanna's voice, and we would kind of do it. And then we would that's how we wanted it to feel constantly really conversational. And we actually always had to do a pass of removing the ums and the likes from what we were writing, so it sort of felt we were like doing too much of that. But doing that, I guess it's like, as I said, everything is made up, but every conversation in there feels like it kind of has happened to us, or we've been involved in some way. Like there's a scene with where Charli gets like a kind of a holistic facial from this facialist in Ibiza, and a lot of what this facialist says was said to Bertie. She said that she went to a massage therapist, and they said, "Darling, you may be relaxed in your body, but you're completely closed in your heart." Bertie was like, "Fucking hell." And so that kind of pulling from the world that we know, and these experiences and things that have like ground our gears, it was really exciting. And yeah, so I guess there was something funny about knowing. So I spoke a little bit about having these examples of other mockumentaries that exist. Often it's about kind of pushing an idea to the most absurd you possibly can. And what we were really interested in doing is, especially because Charli and I's work up till now, it's been very, we're often dripping in irony, as you're saying. We've got a kind of wink and a nudge to a lot of what we do. But in asking an audience to take part in something for an hour and 43 minutes, what I felt was really, really important is that we say something with a lot of earnestness, and we get to something that's hopefully emotional and honest by the end of it. And it's not in my nature as a British person to be earnest ever. And so that was in some ways a challenge, to be like, all right, how do you kind of be wear your heart on your sleeve. Actually, when we'd written the first draft of the script, I remember someone giving me a really good piece of advice saying, don't be afraid of it being cringy or sappy, and don't be afraid of doing a sappy take, just because that's the kind of thing you want to run away from most of the time. How
do you get out of your head to allow yourself to do that?
It's really like I had to keep that in my head all the time. It's like especially doing these kind of emotional things, because it's often, especially in performing emotion or whatever, you're like, God, does that feel real? But letting it happen and doing it, because you get to come back and like see what felt the most real. But God, yeah, you just gotta. It's a real lesson for me of just like let it be sappy for a minute, And I'm gonna maybe implement that in my life from now on.
That's maybe a good life lesson. Let
Yeah.
it be cringe, embrace the confusion.
Totally.
And thank you so much, Aidan
Thank you so
Zamiri.
much. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Ada. Cool.